we are, everybody, at a very well-known spot of the Dow Gardens. Why is it well known? It overlooks the Alden B. Dow home and studio over a pond, and if you come around, which we'll do later, you'll see that they made a walkway over water to play in. This is called Weeping Willow.
The Weeping Willow.
And Craig advises us to look through the different colored glass and see the Weeping Willow.
There's one right across. There's a Weeping Willow there.
Yes.
So the idea of this piece was to frame the view of the magnificent Alden B. Dow house. That's how I found out about the gardens, was I came to tour the home. I grew up in and still own a Frank Lloyd Wright student home, so this kind of architecture has always thrilled me. And I was in that room.
Underwater?
Yes, and the tour, I was thrilled. And I remember saying, what's over there? And they said, well, that's Dow Gardens.
So when you made these, this is especially for the Dow
Yes,
Gardens?
this was made for right here. And the whole idea on this one was from a cell phone. If you're standing where you are as the camera person, it is the same, this is the same ratio aspect as a cell phone photograph. So it's made to put people in with the Dow house behind. I made a frame for one of my favorite homes in the state.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So the colors you added were green and sort of a primary yellow.
Yes, and so it's bold brush strokes, and it's made to catch the light. So in different times of the day, it's a very different experience.
As we were walking over here from the willow tree, Craig was commenting that each of them have a different mood. So I'd like to hear more about that. Do you aim for the mood, or is it a byproduct of what you were feeling, thinking, or just happened?
The mood is what makes the pieces happen. We were talking a little earlier about inspiration.
Yes.
And being a word nerd, the word inspire comes from the Latin to breathe in. To conspire means to breathe together, to expire means to breathe out. And I've realized in my life that oftentimes when I find myself doing that involuntary, that's inspiration. And I've trained my body to pay attention to those moments when you're out in nature, something strikes you, something is beautiful, something resonates with you, and you do this involuntary breath in. That, for me, is physical inspiration, and so I pay attention to what's going on. And if that's a mood I want to share with someone else, it can turn into a piece like this. So this inspiration on this piece came from being in a vineyard sipping an old vine Zinfandel. So I was already in a pretty good mood. And the vines were so ancient, and yet they were still so productive. It was such a beautiful testament to life. So I said, I'm going to do a grape arbor.
So what is beauty to you?
Beauty is something my soul recognizes and curls up into. Beauty is what keeps me going. Beauty is the one thing we can all agree is good. Everything else seems relativist right now. But everyone recognizes that experiencing beauty is a pleasurable experience that, to me, connects us with nature.
Yeah, it elevates us.
It elevates.
So what do you do to clean them?
I just let them get rained on. I never cleaned the work outside. I've got work that's in my own garden that's been outside for 10 years in the winter.
In
You're right.
0-degree weather?
I always tell people, you don't go to bed worrying about the coach lights on the side of your garage door and their glass. It's the same thing. This is not.
Maybe it's thicker.
It is thicker. It is thicker. But the
better?
the big difference is that it doesn't hold water. So this is making a wish. This is one of my favorite pieces. This is actually the 4th time I've made this piece because I've sold it several times, and I loved it so much I liked the spirit of it so much I just kept making it again, and then I kept making it bigger. And so this is 22 feet tall. There's 4 feet of concrete underneath this to hold it up, and just the installation of this required plywood here and a 20-foot tall scissor lift to drop the stem in
Yes.
And then it drops 4 foot straight down, and then up on a scissor lift. Each one, there's 165 pieces of handmade glass, each one 2 days in the making, that are all bolted on.
Did you decide on the height based on the surround here, or did you just decide that?
Well, I kind of wanted to go as big as I could.
Oh.
And so a maximum height on this one, we figured was right where it is. So I wanted to make the biggest, tallest one that I could. And the whole idea behind this is, again, we're talking about the spirit of things.
Yeah.
And when you, as a kid, when was the last time you picked a dandelion cup and blew it? It's the energy of putting out good intentions. It's a secular prayer. It doesn't offend anyone. You're not saying it's from anyone. It's just putting out good intentions.
What else in your world puts out good intentions besides blowing a puff off the diamond?
Oh, I respond to color like a child does.
Happy
So
color?
happy color. I just smile. Matter of fact, my business manager knows that whenever we're having a meeting, she has to take off her earrings, or I will just stare at
As
them.
a rare. What colors appeal to you?
Blue. My favorite color. I can trace my whole glass career back to a Noxzema jar when I was 3 years old. I was messing around in my mother's stuff like I wasn't supposed to, and she had this blue jars, the bluest thing I'd ever
Yes.
seen. And it had some stinking stuff in it. So I scooped it out and dumped it in her hamper.
Oh.
And I was walking around. I wanted to see what the world would look like blue. And to me, that was an improvement.
An improvement.
Yeah. I thought the world would be better if everything was that color.
See, I had glasses made when I was in my 20s with yellow frames. So it should always be a sunlit day in my world.
Color affects your mood, and everybody has a different favorite color. We've got every color of the rainbow that's available in glass is represented in the shop. There's red pieces, there's orange pieces, yellow, green, indigo, violet.
A pink?
Oh, there's pink. And pink glass is amongst the most difficult to work with. It's bizarre to think of it, but like 22% lead crystal is 22% lead by weight, but the molecules line up, so light passes through. So the metal that's in a glass determines the color. And the best pinks are made with gold. So I actually have gold-bearing glasses here in the shop.
Can I see one?
Uh-huh.
Eventually,
The
if
iris,
they had it?
the iris.
Iris?
The most realistic piece in the show is a bearded iris. And that single piece, I had more time near the end of the show. I got done early on this, so I thought, oh, okay, instead of just making an iris, how do you make the most perfect iris? So I spent 2 weeks just making the glass for the sculpture.
So what is going to challenge you next?
Right now I'm focused on developing as complex techniques as is possible and teaching them. So we've recently come up with a technique where I can move multiple layers of glass simultaneously. Which will only be exciting to people who make glass, but that's a big concept in my small world of glassmaking. So when I come up with these new techniques, then I want to share them and teach them. So I'm teaching all this summer, and we issued a book of classes last week, and they're all sold out. Just had a lady booked from Israel coming. People come. I'm so lucky. People come from literally all over the world to learn how to do what I do. I just got there first.
Well, you must be a fabulous teacher.
If you don't love teaching, don't teach. And I was moved a few years ago by reading a story that some of Louis Comfort Tiffany's glass, the Fabril glass, he kept those recipes secret to his grave. They've never been replicated. That's lost.
Yes.
And I thought, don't do that.
Yes.
It struck me that I developed things that nobody else knew how to do, and I saw this as an obligation to empty this of yourself. And I also realized that I could just do the same thing every day for the rest of my life, but as soon as you teach it, you've taken the secret away. So you have to develop something new. You kick the ladder out from underneath yourself, and it makes you climb up.
Interesting.
So
Do
that's
you
how we
learn
think.
from your students by their question?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The best teachers are ones who, when a student says something, you don't just dismiss it. You really think about it. And I've got many ideas, and I'm doing a master's class in August where that's the idea, where we're bringing together a group of glassmakers and we're going to invent a fictional client and we're going to come up with a draft, and then in 5 days we're going to, through idea to completion, make a completed piece. So they see the process of how to make a model, how to envision all the details that go into a piece, and then bring it forth.
Do different cultures have different sense of proportions that would influence what they want to make when they're with you?
Definitely. And I have a strong love of Asian art, as particularly Japanese. So I often am told, like, there's a dogwood sculpture that's available in the gallery that has a very Asian feel to it. There's a grace and a delicate sense of proportion that I find in Asian art that I'm drawn to, so it comes out in my own. I've learned a lot of color from friends from India who are daring and brave in colors in a way that I wasn't. So we absolutely different cultures see proportion differently. Different people are attracted to different proportions. So when I'm doing custom work for people, I had a background in interior design. So I will say, you got to show me your closet. I got to see the patterns you like. I got to see, what do you really live with? What are you comfortable in? And then I take keys from homes and existing gardens. I always want my pieces to blend in. I say I don't want to make exclamation points for the garden. I want to make commas, places for you to stop and pause. And one of the ideas is that you stop at my work and you see things around you that you may not have noticed before.
So talk about the shop you have. Who's doing what now that you have all these workers?
My studio is in Lansing, and I've actually gotten smaller. At one point, I had 8 people working for me. And I was just a factory, making glass, shipping glass everywhere. And I wanted it to be more personal. I have 3 people working with me now, and that's all I want. And we make beautiful things at a slow pace that really require our full attention. There's no more, I've got to make 10 of these in a day. It's here's something somebody wants me to make for them. And that's how most of the work goes on. I have galleries across the country that represent me, so I ship work to them, so I don't have to deal with direct sales. But my favorite thing to do is to make things for people for where they're going.
Mostly are they for inside use or outside?
Mostly inside. I show more outside because this is such an amazing canvas for me. But most of the work I do ends up inside. Lots of chandeliers. Oh yeah, that's the fun part. Any of these pieces, hanging and lit, is a totally new take on a chandelier. I did one a few years ago of a dogwood branch that was 5 foot long, and the lighting of it, the piece didn't have lighting in it. So it was a 6 foot long branch with hundreds of dogwood blossoms on it. Then we lit it from above with a series of pin spots so that the shadow on the white marble table looked like you were having a picnic in the spring.
Oh,
so that's the kind of detail work that I love doing.
Oh, that's very imaginative. Very.
Anything's a chandelier if you throw a light in.
I've never really liked chandeliers when I was under them or near them. I like it when I'm away from them and can see the tops of them. And I think that the downlight is a little hard on
your eyes.
I don't know if it's my eyes. It's just yours sounds the closest to being intimate.
Well, they can be art, and instead of something that you've ordered from a catalog, I love to cable pieces, hanging in midair so you can see them from all angles.
Yeah.
My favorite place to work is a 2-story atrium with a staircase. That's the best.
That means tall.
Yes. Yeah. I like working big.
How tall would you do it to ceiling for 13?
You do it to scale, and you just make sure nobody can touch the bottom, so nothing starts below 7'10". And then I go to the ceiling and give it room for air.
Do people outgrow your work?
I don't know. I've never been. That's a good one. I don't know. I have had several people over the years ask for something. I've had people change the glass on a piece 10 years later. Ask if we could, swap stuff out, and I've done that. So the work evolves. The work I'm doing now is very different from the work I was doing 10 years ago. So if I'm lucky enough to get another 10 years, who knows?
I meant the freshness. Sometimes when you live with something, you're so used to it, you're not really seeing it anymore. You have to put it away for a while.
And move things. Well, that's one of the reasons you move it around in a gallery.
Yeah.
If a piece isn't selling in a gallery, you ship it to another gallery where it's new for someone else. And I do that with my own artwork in my own home. You stop seeing your own thing.
Yes.
So sometimes I'll move my paintings around and then just seeing them in a new place. It's a new piece. I was an art collector long before I was an artist.
Oh, what did you like to collect?
Well, I have a creepy clown collection that I like a lot. I'm actually a cheerful guy, so I have a lot of creepy doll's head art. I have some real paintings too, but I've always collected something of the macabre, and I think it kind of balances me out.
I hear you.
Yep, so many of the pieces I do, everything tells a story. In a way, everything is allegorical. And this one, it was based on my father's mother. And when I was a little boy, I did not like her picking me up and hugging me when I was 2 or 3 years old, but she always wore big brooches. And I remember having my face shoved in, but I still remember having my eyes open and seeing that dazzle, in front of it, and just being dazzled by all those, rhinestones or whatever they were. And so it seemed so big to me at the time that was a memory I've kept all these years. So I literally wanted to make it big for other people too.
It does have that feeling.
It's a 1940s brooch turned into a 12-foot tall sculpture.
That's so. They were always sort of a little lyrical.
Yes, they always had that movement.
Yes, nice.
And her last name was Smith, and so I noticed everything she had an S built into it.
Nice.
And I've had a fascination on blue morpho butterflies since I was a little Catholic boy, and I went to Catholic school, and visiting one of my neighbor friends, they had a niche for the Blessed Virgin Mary. Well, as we were taught, Mary loves blue, and so this beautiful image of Mary was encrusted with dead butterfly wings.
Oh.
And even at the time, I remember being mesmerized and fascinated and horrified all at once.
Yeah.
So I took the best of it from that iridescent.
And we know your favorite color is blue.
Blue.
Anyway.
Just I'll just make blue things all the time.
And how did you pick this spot for it?
Because it was so alive. This, to me, the trunks on this euonymus looked like the flight path of butterflies to me. So it was just a logical thing to take all of this movement through this and lift it up.
Fantastic.
This is glass. This piece, I think it's 14 feet tall, and it has a very, very thin coating of tin on it that gives it its iridescence. And this piece will really come to life when we illuminate this for the evening shows, because when you put colored light on this, it becomes every color you light it with. So this was about just that upward thrust of life.
So
It's
what
just
would
a
you
move.
light it with?
Lavender
Oh, fabulous.
and a little bastard amber. Remember, if you're in
Oh.
theater, you know that color.
Yes.
And blue. So
Interesting.
those will be the three we're going to work on for this baby.
Now, would you do the whole sculpture, or would you do
You
pin
pick it
spots?
out. You pick it out.
And-
So we'll get over here and we'll be playing in, and there'll be one fixture over there, and then we'll rake it from one directly underneath, and then we'll do a flood from back here. So
Fabulous.
these pieces will all have, I'm sure all of these pieces will have a minimum of 3 lighting sources on each one. That's how you make the magic.
Interesting. Does height of things lit high have a different feel from things lit that are lower?
Well, they certainly appear smaller. So you've got, again, it's all in the details. It's all in the proportions. So, and how you light it? Yes, and what we also learned is like if I did a blue sculpture, your instinct is to light it with blue light. Well, then
No.
the metal turns blue and you can't tell what's what.
What's what?
So if you're aiming, if you're doing a blue piece, you go to both sides of it. So you'll have one light source that's, say, aqua, and another one that's purple. And then you go in the middle, which would be a greenish yellow, and infill with that.
Fabulous.
So
Where
there's-
did you learn that?
Theater. I was a theatrical set designer, but what I loved about theater was that it's a true collaboration. When you
Yes,
think of
a
theater, what
family.
you think of is the ego that's in front, but it's the whole group of people that make it all work that I was most attracted to. I didn't want to be the guy on stage. I wanted to make the stage. And so that's what I did for years, and then I'd talk to the lighting people to bring my sets to life. And then so the whole world of theater is in everything I do.
So intro, resolution, happiness, sadness.
All of it. All of it. You can tell a story. I choose not to tell my sadness. Who cares? Nobody wants to see that. I don't want to show it. I choose to show the good parts. Share the good.
You've had a wonderfully supportive background for what you're doing now.
It gelled.
Lucky.
It gelled. So the carpentry work I did taught me how to weld. Owning a flower shop taught me grace and taught me composition. Everything, and theater taught me how to present it and perspective, lighting. It's all come together.
So when you do any of these, is there a preferred distance that you are not recommending, but you are hearing or thinking that your audience will see it from?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is scaled for, and we want to keep people, because the work is glass, I don't want people charging into it. So we make, there's subtle barriers in between the pieces, and I like about 8 feet away from most of the pieces. I do things like, I try to take into account everyone. So, say the poppies or the hollyhocks. I make sure that I have flowers down low that are aimed at children's faces.
Oh, I love that.
So they're all, I'm trying to make them all look back at you.
So nice.
Instead of just looking at them.
They look at you. A little friend.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite quotes is of Thomas Merton, and he said, "If we could truly see each other, we would bow."
Be in awe, huh? Okay. To prepare to make it. You were saying you did a silk screen first.
Well, one of the steps was, and they're different on every petal. I made silk screens that are the shapes of the veining. So I hand paint a silk screen, and where I don't put paint, the powder can pass through.
That's so smart.
And then I grind my own purple glass into powder and silk screen it onto the glass. Then each one of these pieces was on a single use plaster mold with my fingers pulling through the plaster that made all of those spots. And that powdered glass is fired on that.
Did you keep the proportions when you enlarged it of the smaller flowers and the bigger, or that was more?
I made it bigger and
Yeah.
chunkier, one to be stronger,
Yes.
and just because I exaggerate everything in my work.
You framed it with these beautiful leaves and leaves.
And I cut out the stainless steel leaves with my own plasma cutter. It's all done in the studio, right down to buying the slabs of granite and polishing the edges. It's all drilled and bolted in between so it can stand up and not fall over in the wind.
What's the stand of?
Stainless steel
That's-
and
it's
black granite.
polished a little.
Yep, it's just got some dirt on it right now from watering.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad we got to see this.
And beautiful light on this.
I saw this when I was here with my friend the other day, and bright sun on it. So this is definitely a different mood.
Every different time of day has a totally different feeling. I like this, where you've got the dappled light behind it. I'm not a sun. I can't go in the sun.
Yeah.
I got the stupid Irish skin.
Right. So what mood would you hope people catch from this?
The mood I had, which is the only one I could reference, was being a little kid and being at my grandmother's house, and she had field iris behind the house. And she saw them as weeds, and I thought they were the most beautiful bouquet. So I remember cutting them and putting them in a pitcher and just putting them on the table, and thought it made the meal taste better.
Oh, you are an interesting fellow. So Craig, they're sort of orange. I thought poppies were red, or these pictures I've seen are.
Well, poppies, I have a great fondness for poppies, and California poppies are exactly this color. And having spent a lot of time in California, I specifically went out for a super bloom a few years ago and drove out into the desert just to see the hillsides covered with millions and millions of
In
poppies.
this color.
In this color. So there's something about this vivid tangerine orange that's so vivid. I just adore this color. And right now there's a little pool of sunlight hitting it.
Yes.
She's never looked better.
So we want to thank Craig for this wonderful afternoon tour, and I get to know you, and
What
I
a
get to
joy
know
this
your
has been.
his art. As I mentioned earlier, if you're drawn to it, there are pieces in the gift shop at the Dow Gardens, and do come back if you're inclined in September when they have the light show through October 15th. So many of the pieces, I guess all of them,
They're all
we've
here.
looked at, will be lit
will be lit.
differently.
And I'm here in the gardens most Sundays, just roaming around saying hi to people.
Now there's a good soul.
Oh, who wouldn't want to walk around and hear people say nice things about you? It's a good way to spend a day.
Yes.
No one has said, I hate this yet.
Well, I wouldn't expect, but you never know.
You never know. You take it.
It's the
you take it,
reaction
too.
you're looking for, yes.
To contact Junia, send her an email at juniadonsthespark@gmail.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadonthespark.com. Thank you for joining us. See you next time on Junia Doan's The Spark.
Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.